So things have been very, very interesting, especially this year. One of the things that I am very, very proud of is the fact that I spent literally a year in AR, and because of that, I learned so much. I feel like it took a pandemic for me to actually get a career. I think that's just literally pretty crazy to me. But for the most part, it's been a very interesting year to say the least. 1 year in AR, I was able to accomplish literally opening up Unity for the first time, to going ahead and making my first app called Eyelnd Feevr that I released in January. And then from there, I started working in this sort of pseudo influencer, YouTube video maker, and online educator thing. Like, I essentially took on the idea of exploring sort of my identity as a black creator and sharing that with the world, and inadvertently creating a whole new like niche for myself. Like, honestly, like it's the pauses are just because I'm really trying to figure out like how all this stuff sort of came to be, and it's just crazy. But for the most part, it was just pretty crazy. And so, it first started off with me just playing around with Vuforia and getting this course that I got after going to Adobe Max and playing around with just a whole bunch of different ideas. And then from there, I started really exploring the ideas of like, okay, what would happen if I told stories that were of the black experience that quite often, like, I always tell anyway with all of my work. But what if I just started telling that in a way that was authentic to my own work? And more importantly, like, how do I integrate all the things that I was working on already and just sort of add that extra layer of AR to it? That was really like my thing. How do I add that extra layer of AR to the work that I'm doing as an illustrator, as an animator, as a storyteller, as a designer? How do I use the tools that I'm already using, but then add some additional tools to make even more crazy experiences? And it's I can't really complain about it, to be honest with you. I really can't, because the things that I sort of stumbled into doing as a self-taught artist really focused on my identity and my expression. When AR came into the scene, it was like, okay, I'm able to create these experiences, and I didn't need to use words to enhance those experiences. More importantly, like, I didn't need to know how to code a video game to make people play around with stuff that I was creating. In fact, like, I didn't even need to, like, the one thing that I found was I didn't need to animate every single frame to have a cartoon. And quite literally, like, I could take the storyboards that I had, I could turn that into a comic book, and then I can add audio to it, and I could add uh, gifs to it, and I could add motion graphics to it, and I could have it on a timeline, and I could have my cartoon within a book without having to get a deal. Like, that was the stuff that I saw that was just really powerful for me as a creator. And like, one of my buddies, Anthony Piper, he got his deal, and you know it was sort of a long time coming for that, and just sort of seeing all the time and effort that it was required for that, that was something that I wanted, but I understood that I didn't want to wait 10 years to get my opportunity or my deal. More importantly, like, I didn't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to, you know, raise capital to get a video game done or have these worlds built out and experienced. And for me, like, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm reflecting on all these experiences, like the one thing that like I really appreciated was that working in the AR space, a single developer can do a lot. And often that's overshadowed by sort of the eye candy that people are able to do, or these business to business solutions are, right? I think the bottleneck for independent developers are really just the time and the license fees. That's really it. Like, if you're fortunate to have $600 laying around, you could get a Vuforia license, and getting that Vuforia license means that you can have as much access to the ground plane tracking tools, the uh, Apple Store and the Google Play Store publishing, the image tracking databases. You could have all of that stuff, but you got to pay. You kind of have to pay to play, and that's one of the things that I really sort of seen with it, and it's just really interesting. But like once you get that stuff, literally once you get that stuff, like doors open so wide where I was literally just taking a 3D model that I had of a character, taking some animation from Mixamo and putting that on top of a cover and literally having that be it. Like that's the experience. And then whatever basic level of code that I knew to sort of script these buttons in Unity, like that was it, you know? And just being able to realize that, being able to manifest that experience was, I mean, it just, and more importantly, like manifest that experience and sort of that being culturally relevant, seeing dances on TikTok and then taking those dances and putting those a onto a book, like, and bring that to life. That's crazy. And so like after that, I started really playing around with these ideas of like, okay, with image tracking, how far can I take this idea of like AR? How far can I take it? And I really started playing around with that idea where I was like, okay, let me get some sublimation stuff going. Let me actually see what I can do with print products, with physical products, and make something interesting, make something unique. And so it's first started off with puzzles. So I got myself a Cricut, I got myself a sublimation printer, and I started making puzzles that essentially took the concepts that I was using for comic books, and I was placing the characters and the experiences on there. And so not only was I able to do prints and comic book pages with AR, but I can make puzzles with AR now. And then I started taking it to a next level where I started making mouse pads with AR. Well, I was taking the same images, but I was using different mediums to interact with stuff. And so from there, I was like, okay, I have a lot of different characters. So what would it look like for me to bring to life the characters that I was creating? Not just one character, but creating sort of solo experiences of all the characters that I created. Getting a 3D model done, doing some art for the image tracking to distinguish these characters, and then also give them experiences that they often, essentially giving experiences that will really speak to those characters in and of itself. And then from there, I really started like trying to expand on that idea, right? Where what if I gave these characters sequences, or what if they had character specific animation? Like that was really what I was playing around with. And then interestingly enough, like I started, well, I wouldn't say interestingly enough. During this whole time, I was applying to medical school. And so by the time I started getting deeper into AR and the coronavirus and everything, I ended up getting rejected from all the medical schools that I applied to. And so during that time, I was like, crap, this freaking sucks, right? Like, this sucks, and this sucks because I I really thought that this was going to be my shot. And when I'm like getting deeper into the AR stuff, I was like, this is something that like I could really apply to educational resources into the field of medicine. Like that's where I was thinking. And I learned that medical schools didn't really care about that potential, that opportunity. They just didn't. And so I sort of like took a step back and I started working on some demos, but then I started going back to sort of the AR stuff, the creations of blackness in AR. And one of the things I was working on was really sort of like how to create black experiences with AR, with black characters, with black dances, with black sounds. Oh, it's black, 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 black. Like that's what it comes down to. Like, we know what we like, and it's just a matter of like how do we create those experiences and then be able to place those anywhere and see those through the phone screen. So it goes beyond just us watching a video. Like it's an experience that we're able to immerse ourselves in. We could put some headphones in, we could sort of have a headset maybe, or we just hold our phone and we're able to interact with these things. We could scale them, we can make them large and big, we could do all that. And then like when everything happened with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, I really started to take that to a next level where I was like, this doesn't have to be just for entertainment. It can be it quite literally can be for anything that we as black people sort of experience and understand. And so I found some stuff on Sketchfab, because during that time I didn't want to get caught in like the coronavirus stuff. I'm in Portland, so I didn't want to get caught up in the Proud Boy stuff. I didn't want to deal with any of the consequences of speaking out and participating in the movement, or I wouldn't even say participating in the movement, but like just engaging with the community on this personal and deep level. And so what I did is I started creating an AR experience, and I created it with the intention of being able to navigate the world during COVID while I'm free from sort of, socially distanced from people and stuff, and then have these impactful things that allow me to share with others and participate. And so after I did that, then I ended up working on some more creative stuff that often I wouldn't necessarily, you just won't see from non-creators in the space. And one of the things was actually just making a drawing and seeing what you can do with original art and augmenting that with augmented reality. So just literally simply like bringing your original art to life and then adding some code to it to make it even more original. And then being able to integrate with it and engage with it on a way that, you draw a character and then you're able to control the character through the game engine without having to actually make a game. Like that's wild, right? So I worked on that. Then I started to revisit the idea of like, medical school and stuff because one of my friends sort of just talked me into like reapplying. I wouldn't say one of my friends, but like I felt like it was like this was going to be my year to like actually get in with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. Like this was actually like my year to actually apply. I need to do that. And so I started to expand my idea of, my interest in medicine and my skill set with AR and my interest in incorporating the arts into it. And so I started making another demo, and this demo had a full, human anatomy and essentially the same tools that I was using, but just adding, testing myself a little bit more, trying a whole bunch of models, scaling, rotation, turning on and off things. I like this. It started to get really, really fun, and from there I was like, okay, I think I got this done. Let me actually go back to my print products and make some masks and see what I can do to augment some masks and make some cool AR face masks that are actually cloth face masks. And so started doing that again, just being super experimental. And then interestingly enough, like I was sort of tired of like dealing with the Vuforia pipeline. Vuforia makes things easy, but I wanted to explore some new things. And so AR Foundation was sort of the thing that was picking up real estate or sparking my interest more. And so I started to play around with Vuforia. I started to play around with Vuforia, but then I also started playing around with AR Foundation more, just because it was just different. It was different in a way that looked intriguing, and I felt like I had the opportunity to do more with such a robust tool that wasn't necessarily relying on things. And I'm totally glad that I did that because right after I started playing around with AR Foundation, I found out about this new hand tracking SDK. And for those that don't know, like the idea of mobile hand tracking with augmented reality, or what they call mixed reality for mobile devices, is just not something that is, I wouldn't say known. It's just not something that people really use very often. Like, it's just not a thing, really. Like, it's not a thing. And so the fact that there is a solution that's supported by AR Foundation, it's like it further made me want to learn AR Foundation more to use it. And so got my hands on it, started playing around with some different tools and techniques, and learning more Unity stuff. Shout out to Matt Wahlberg or shout out to Matt Halberg and the other developers like Dilmer and a few other people that I was watching videos on, because they were giving me opportunities to they were introducing me to things that I thought just weren't really possible. And then being able to see that in AR and seeing what they can do was just really enlightening. And so from there, I actually started making a headset. I incorporated a lot of the stuff that I learned from the videos, and I started building out these experiences that were encroaching on mixed reality. Like, I got to play around with more Unity tools. I got to do these interesting things with like gaze input. And gaze input, like that just opened up the doors for me in so many ways, because I never thought that like I never really thought that I could do this stuff. Like, these are all sort of like Iron Man, freaking techie boom stuff that you see on TV, Dexter's Lab type of stuff. And I was just in the middle of the pandemic. I'm over here thinking of ideas, putting them on paper, and trying to iterate those, and then going to my kitchen or going to my living room or going to the infamous hallway right outside my apartment by the elevators to build out these experiences and test them out. Like, it was one of those things that like I'd never thought that like I would be able to do. And so after playing around with it, like I cracked the code in some ways, where I bootstrapped together a mixed reality solution where I was able to play around with different tools. I was able to create experiences where with gaze input, I could move 3D models around. I could run around and make things rotate, spin. I could even walk up to a model and actually move it with my hand. This is some wild stuff that I was just sort of stumbling upon. Like, I literally felt like I was just creating things, coming up with ideas, creating them, putting them to test, and then sharing them with the world. And I think that was like the most liberating thing, to be honest with you, right? I was literally just like making stuff I never thought I would make. And so after that, I've been working on this book called Flossing Magazine AR, and I literally been working on it for months, if not a year. And so one of the things that I was really proud to revisit once I finished a whole bunch of different projects was really this book, and it was focused on telling Black stories through the lens of Black people in augmented reality, using augmented reality to enhance those experiences. And that was really enlightening, and it was really informative as a creator, because it allowed me to explore what storytelling looks like from a Afrocentric lens with technology. And more importantly, like, it went beyond just the page, and I was able to create that. I was able to create 3D models. I was able to create significant figures from within the book and significant scenes, and you could literally be the editor of the book. You know, like, I literally created a 3D model of the editor of the book and was able to build an app around it so that others can play around with it. And so I finished that book, and then I started revisiting some of the stuff that I was working on with Eyelnd Feevr from the beginning of the year. And one of those things was really just looking at what it would take, or what it would look like, to bring the artwork that I had to life. Where there was the 2D images that I had, or it was the 3D scenes that I had with characters doing specific movements. You know, I explored 3D loops, I explored 2D loops and GIFs, and I even explored just dancing experiences. And so worked on that. Then I got the opportunity to work with Oregon Health and Science University on some 3D models and stuff, and some 3D assets. And so then I started working with them on one of the many ideas that healthcare professionals have had for using AR. And so I essentially put an operating room in the middle of my living room and was able to navigate it in a way. And so finished that, still working on that project, but I really wanted to continue working on the stuff that I had going as a creator interested in the field of medicine. And so that meant revisiting some old book covers that I had. I also had some other stuff that I was working on that involved, Lens Studio and Spark AR, where I would change my hair color. I would add new hair to myself. It's like I was at the point now in my essentially creative mood or profession or career in AR, at least my year, where I was able to play around with just like a whole bunch of fun stuff. Like it's one of those that, like, I truly appreciate the opportunity to be in this space where I can make things, put them into the world, and then have fun and reflect on those things. It's you can't beat it. Like, I feel very, very fortunate about it, because the journey that I had was really one of exploration, really intrigued about the technology and intrigued about the opportunity to create things with it. And what came from that exploration was, actually a real career. It was a opportunity to connect with the community. It was an opportunity to play around with the variety of different tools, and it was an opportunity to meet great people and have a platform. Like, that's one thing that I really went into this trying to do, was throughout the year I wanted to find a way to make animation more accessible. I wanted to find a way to make integrate technology into the arts a little bit more, and I also wanted to make things more awesome, as if they were an anime fight scene, and AR was sort of that saving grace. It was the opportunity for me to do that. And more importantly, like, it created opportunities for me that go beyond just the work that I was doing prior to being in the space. And so for me, like I'm really fortunate to say that I joined AR in the manner in which I am and have been, because my goal was to be sort of like that black AR influencer guy. And just the way things have happened with my career, and the things that have happened with my journey in AR, I definitely, in many ways, like, this was sort of the path of least resistance for me to elevate my career. And I'm still on the fence about that, because I don't know if it's because I'm good at the stuff that I'm doing, or if I'm able to come up with good ideas that others aren't able to come up with, or I'm sort of in this niche where there's just not a lot of competition for what I'm specifically doing. And I think part of it is just I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome because of that. I didn't know I didn't really know much about the industry as like I sort of got deeper into it. And then as I started to get deeper into it, I was trying to figure out why I was starting to stand out more with the least amount of effort compared to me in animation and in comics and in medicine. I wasn't really sure what that all meant, what the results of that would be. And even, I mean, to this point, like, I really don't know either. Like, I still don't know. I still don't really know, like, what all the opportunities or what my pathway is. But for me, I know what I'm trying to do. And I know that what I'm trying to do is really be influencer and impactful in the fact that I don't want to see black people sort of lost or left behind in this XR revolution. I don't. Like, I grew up in the Bay Area during the Silicon Valley boom and all that. And then I also, saw my family and my friends sort of move outside of the Bay Area because of the prices and not being able to afford anything or just not having the opportunities or being excluded in the spaces. And then I also saw the op-eds of where's all the black people in tech in Silicon Valley. I saw all that stuff. I lived through it. I experienced it. And during that time I was just like, why is this happening? And now I'm like, this is happening again. It's crazy to be in Portland and to see all this stuff essentially, happening as it was when I was, 10, 11, 12. But for me, it's like looking back at it, I wish that somebody, I wish I was just exposed to things in a different manner. I love football. It was great. And I love sort of the times and the experiences and the people that I met through that experience. But from this year in AR, I really, really learned that it doesn't take a lot of time to have impact, and it doesn't take a lot of time to get on people's radars or change your outlook on things, whether it's your career opportunities, your interests. All those things don't take a lot of time. What takes time is trying to find what you're interested in and what you're compelled to do. It takes time to figure out where your convictions lie. And I think that because I was able to figure that out early on, I was able to make waves in ways that were impactful for me and others. And so I appreciate everybody for sticking through the video even after the demo. For those listening on the podcast, because I'm trying to figure out this whole YouTube video podcast thing and not bottlenecking myself with creating content and then not putting it out on all the platforms. Still trying to figure that out. But I really appreciate everybody and all the support up until this point. Like, you guys have been awesome. It's crazy to think that last year I was trying to figure out stuff in the AR space, and now a year later, I am one of the emerging black voices in the XR space, AR space. I would say AR space in particular because I don't do like VR, kind of doing MR. But yeah, I just being seeing just the opportunities that are coming with it, and seeing the platforms that I have access to now are just a true blessing. And uh, I always I've always had this tendency to like timestamp or time capsule these moments, uh, to look back at them and just be like, hey, like this is where I was at this point. And I've grown more appreciation for that with like video logs and podcasts because it's it's something that I'm able to share with people to give them a experience of what it's like to be at that mental state during these moments in time, you know? So hopefully another video log will be of me getting my acceptance to medical school. That would be great. Hopefully it's another one of another big announcement. Maybe I expand with Utopia and it being more than just one person. Hopefully it's, me signing an animation deal with something. Like, hopefully, hopefully I get drafted to the NFL. I mean, that's never going to happen. That whole, boat or ship is sailed. But, hopefully it's some more awesome stuff that I'm able to share with you guys. Hopefully I have more than 2,000 followers on, or more than 2,000 subscribers on my podcast or my YouTube videos or my YouTube channel and stuff. Um, Hopefully I have my own platform. Hopefully I'm able to figure out this whole, database thing with Unity and I'm able to share how I did that. Uh, it's, I think the beauty of this is just, I'm at this point as a creator, this is probably the first time that I felt actually free to be creative and to share the things that I'm doing and to ultimately have an impact in an impactful way for other creators that are, like me, that look like me, that have my same interests, and showing that just the sheer nature of creation and sharing, very much on like Twitter and stuff like that and YouTube, the very nature of doing that is the epitome of being a creator. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to open more doors for yourself and create opportunities that weren't there. And literally, all the opportunities I have now in terms of a profession, they're all because I made that decision to see where this AR thing would take me. And then once I sort of had an idea of it, I said, let me just put this on the internet and see how people will respond to it. And just those two things, those two actions were the difference maker for me. Like it's crazy. And so, for those that are watching, those that are listening, those that are interested in sort of my work or following me, I'll be candid here. Like, half the time, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I'd be Googling stuff. I'd be reaching out to people and talking to them, picking their brains. I, but what I do is I have a whiteboard that I write all my ideas down on. I have, I use Microsoft OneNote to expand on those ideas. If I need to sketch something out, I have a sketchbook right on my desk to map some ideas, bullet notes, anything like that. And then I just spend the time to just do it. And then once I spend the time to do it, I test it out, I make a video, post it online, comment a couple of times and share it with people. And then I move on to the next project. And then move on to the next project and the next and the next. And so just for those that are just trying to figure out where to go or where to start, I definitely have no idea where I'm going with this. I mean, I kind of have an idea, but I don't, and I have an idea and I have a vision, but I don't know where it's going to lead to. But I do know that like what I want to see into the world, like what I want to see in the world is something that I have the ability to, kind of create right now. And, for me, it's sort of blackness and technology and the arts and health education and operating and creating within that intersection of all four of those things. That's sort of where my interest and convictions lie. And so if that aligns with you, great. If you guys are, looking for something else or trying to figure it out, hey, I'm trying to figure it out too. So, with that being said, tap in with me on the Patreon, tap in with me on the podcast, tap in with me on the YouTube videos. Everything is stuck on an island. StuckonAnEyeland. I feel like I should make that a little shorter at some point. But yeah, I just truly appreciate it. Like this has been a wild year. Been a wild year, and the beginning of 2021 has been very interesting to say the least. And so, you know, hopefully it just continues to level up in ways that, are life changing for me. And hopefully just you all seeing the journey and following the journey will continue to inspire you to, keep doing the awesome stuff that you guys are doing. And so, without further ado, I appreciate everybody for your time or your support. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff that you guys all, like to do with these platforms. And yeah, continue being awesome. Create and conquer. That's it. Create and conquer. Yeah. And so, have a good one. Adios.